The role of state government in sustaining healthy forests on private land is I think first and foremost in a support way, in an information gathering, compiling, and disseminating kind of way, convening, facilitating, bringing partner groups together, supporting all of the grassroots efforts so coverts, for example, association of landowners is using the teachers teaching the, what is it, how do they say this? I'm gumming it all up, but trainers teaching the trainer or something. It's like
Training the trainer.
Training the trainer. Having a landowner learn about wildlife habitat and protection enhancement, and then sharing that with other landowners. That's the coverts model, and it's brilliant. And I think that's just an example of government supporting those kinds of efforts. So us compiling information, the latest best practices, helping to provide workshops and trainings through our staff to go meet one-on-one with landowners, all of the above is information sharing, gathering and sharing, right, to support stewardship on private lands. And then supporting and leveraging others who would do that too, whether it's land trusts or coverts or local conservation commissions, providing them resources and empowering them to get together with others. I think that's an appropriate role of government in this space, is to provide information and facilitate its transfer and implementation in reasonable ways, locally, closely, and in a connected sort of way. That's, to me, first and foremost. And then you start to ease into, well, there's some, within current use, as I say, it's a voluntary program. For some people, it's effectively mandatory. They have to do it for their circumstances. Within this voluntary program, though, there are regulations that you have to follow. And I think that's important for a publicly accountable agency to provide that mechanism of ensuring, the accountability through a sort of regulatory approach to overseeing the standards and practices in that program. And then you get on to, maybe there are certain roles potentially here and there for just like any dimension of life for government in playing that accountability role for the rest of the public. I also think I'm missing a big piece here, which is our responsibility, government responsibility for public land and stewarding it for all Vermonters and for making it available for their use and enjoyment, taking care of it for all of its ecological value and services, and then using it as demonstration places to experiment, test, refine, and demonstrate best practices in land management and stewardship. I think that's the package that I see most powerful as a role for government in supporting stewardship on private lands. I think that the healthy landscape, forested landscape, is dependent on an economy. It's also vulnerable to the economy. So I think it's about making choices in what kind of an economy do we want, and what kind do we have, what are the chances to tweak it and change its trajectory. And so that's an area of great interest for us now, is understanding that we have a forest economy that's significant, and the value chain from forest owner, forester, logger, trucker, primary mill, secondary manufacturer, retailer, craftspeople, et cetera. That value chain is really important, and you need all the links in it. And some of them are really threatened at various points. And so, understanding we've had a forest economy, it is significant, it is in trouble, we need to address it, and now's the time to think about, well, can we, as we rebuild our energy economy, for example, with renewable energy, can we insert some appropriate level of renewable wood energy into this mix so that while we rebuild our energy economy, we can also rebuild our forest economy, all with an eye towards supporting forests, forest function, and the values that healthy forests provide. Right here locally in Burlington, the McNeil Electric Generating Facility, wood-fired, is a lighthouse in a storm for the people who actually work on the front end of the forest economy, principally foresters and loggers. We're in a time when the marketplace is contracted in a significant way, owing to mill closures in Maine principally. shutting off demand for nearly half of our annual harvest. The people who are doing that work that we're all benefiting from suddenly have no place to sell the wood that they bought and cut. And McNeil, the Burlington Electric plant, is, again, as a colleague has referred to it, is a lighthouse in the storm right now for these folks. They are buying that low-grade wood that no one else can buy and putting it to a productive use in electrifying our community. And when we take the next leap to increasing efficiency of use of the wood and cleanness of burning with respect to the atmosphere, to go towards modern, efficient, clean burning applications, capturing the heat loss in that electric generation would take it to the next level, because now that's beautiful. Now we're supporting this forest economy, but we're making even more of it. And that gets us into one of our initiatives for expanding what we call modern or advanced wood heat, taking advantage of massive gains in technology for efficient, clean burning, automated heating systems that are look and feel to us users just like an oil burner, centralized, turn the thermostat on the wall, but it's wood instead of dead dinosaurs. That's good for Vermont. It's win-win-win, all these co-benefits. It's good for the forest economy, it's getting us off fossil fuels, good for climate, and good for keeping the money local. So they are lighthouses, and as we continue to push forward to apply even better applications, they're going to become, we'd like to think, even more important central players, again, in kind of rebuilding our energy economy and our forest economy at the same time. In a big way. The work that we do, speaking specifically about the forest and forestry work that we do, which is a part of the work we do, it's ever more globalized situation, and we are a pretty small, really, player in the global wood marketplace with some significant disadvantages. Say, we don't have a deep water port here. To some extent, that may be actually a good thing as we kind of all come up to speed on what the implications of Europe burning a lot of wood chips and pellets and supplying a lot of that from North America, particularly the southeast of this country, and the impacts it's having, as well as more and more raw logs being shipped in containers to Asia, China in particular, and having all the value added taking place over there, and then we're buying lumber and manufactured goods back. As globalization, we are subject to it, vulnerable to it. It's part of the problem. You know, prices being set globally without there's factors, global forces that we just can't control, and yet we have real costs that are established here locally, and they're out of whack. So this imbalance between what we can do locally with the forces, the global forces that we don't control, is a real tension point, and it's vexing as a policymaker. How do we find our way through this, knowing that we're not only is it globalized, but we're part of a regional wood flow as well, and yet we have socio-political boundaries, and it's a real head scratcher actually. But a point for us all to be focused on is, if we're taking the long view, how are we going to get there and maintain a healthy forested landscape in this state when we're so small and we are at the whim of this ever-increasing globalization, which, by the way, comes with some ecological challenges too, like invasives and accelerated movement of pests, plants, and pathogens. At the state level, certainly in our department and elsewhere in our agency, say with the Fish and Wildlife Department, I think we have a pretty strong tradition of working with local communities and statewide. So supporting town forests through the work of the town forest, supporting town conservation planning efforts through planning commissions, conservation commissions, school groups, teaching, training, demonstrating, and offering tools and strategies for communities, encouraging them to plan for forest resources and forest health. Right? That's one way, traditional way that we've done that. Reaching out to the federal level, on the other hand, we are partners with federal agencies like the USDA Forest Service and rely heavily on their support through forest stewardship, state and private forestry, forest research, and then we have also the federal forest system, the national forest system with the Green Mountain National Forest here as a statewide partner. So we rely on the feds, if you will, for funding and for support for many programs that apply here. Urban and community stewardship, again, I mentioned some. And we also have this local partner with another public land manager agency, the Forest Service, with the Green Mountain National Forest. Pretty good relations, kind of stay together. They have their way, but so those are the ways we connect to the feds. And I think the outreach and support network with local communities, particularly through town forests, is how we reach out and try. So I like to think of us as kind of a hub of this wheel with these spokes to local communities, to the feds, and other partners, including university research and scholarship. It's a great idea, and I'm all for it. Let's increase that synergy. I have thought many times, boy, I mean, I've seen some folks from the Rubenstein School in particular in committee testifying, and I always like that. And I think it always makes me think we should do more. There should be more of that, where to have a Tony D'Amato come in and speak with a committee that's really struggling with some basic concepts. Such a great communicator, knowledgeable, and a teacher to be able to help make some of these connections. And I think doing it in a credible, having the advantage of being credible and detached, if you will, from the political arena. It strikes me as an untapped strength for advocating for forests and forestry, because it tends to be dominated, those committee hearings, by officials, public policy makers, officials, administration officials, lobbyists, and other advocates. And I think folks from the land grant university and the state coming in and just being very sort of straightforward, without a particular axe to grind, I think is highly effective. So that would be one way to increase the synergy. I would also say that you could say the same thing about students. Engaging students in the process is good for them, in the whole drool on the chin concept, that they're going to be running the world. It's good to get them exposed to some of this now. But also what they bring in energy and passion is really powerful. Heck, we're seeing that playing out across the country right now, and even on campus as we speak. And I think that's part of the increased synergy too. I totally believe in that. We need to do a better job of translating this ecological wisdom to the policymakers. I believe the ecological wise people also need to do a better job continuously of understanding what the policymakers need and what should we be working on to help inform them. Not my pet project, for which I can easily get some grant funding, and that's cool, but is it really addressing the actual need? I'm always a bit of an advocate, a gadfly a little bit, saying, come on, it goes both ways. And I run the risk of annoying people with that because it suggests that I think they're not doing it. I don't mean that. I think they are, but it's fair that we need to translate better, and we also need to listen to the needs better, all of us together.